Hi, so we're going to go ahead and move along here. A couple of the things that we need to be able to do to learn how to program, just to make things a little bit more fun, is to be able to make charts. So if we're going to be using data, we're going to be using math, we're going to be using that type of stuff. To get a real sense of data, you have to be able to chart that data and create kind of infographics to help your understanding of the numbers. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and install a charting library. So I've looked at this X chart. I'm on the download page. We're going to go ahead and download whatever the most recent version is. Of course, I've double checked, that it takes the right version of Java and everything. So we go into our download folder, and notice I downloaded it before. So we're just going to go ahead and extract it here. The easiest way to do this one is just to double click and then drag it over. And this gives us this xchart-2.4.1. Okay, so I'm going to copy that. And where I'm going to put it is in my documents, wherever my project folder is. So notice that in Eclipse, I'm in my project 1, and then inside of here I have a source file, SRC folder. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually create another folder called lib. Okay, and I actually did this before. So this is what your project 1 folder will look like. So we're going to right click and we're going to go to new folder. We're going to call that lib. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and paste in my my xchart jar file, right? Okay, so now I'm going to go back to Eclipse. I'm going to right click in this package export pane and press refresh. And notice I get this lib file. I'm then going to select the jar. I'm going to right click, go to build path, and click add to build path. Okay, and at this point you notice that now this reference library appears and we have this jar right here. Okay, all right, and then inside we have all of our different libraries that they have. Okay, so we have our reference libraries here, and basically what we want to do at this point, anytime you get a library and you get some kind of external code, you want to go ahead and after just making the selection of what you want to use is tough. Okay, but the next thing that you want to do is run some kind of example code. So here on this xchart site, they have some example code. Okay, I've kind of found this earlier. It took a little bit of looking, but so we want to go just get the most basic example. And what this is going to do is it's going to be a proof of concept for us. Okay, and they have this example code here, and we're going to take it and we're going to put it in our project just to make sure everything's running on our machine. Okay, so for that, notice that now I kind of have these multiple things here in my project. So, but this is hello package is like where we're working in for the class. So in source, we're going to go ahead and create a new class, but it's not going to be in the hello package. We're going to call it sample. Okay, and we're going to call this class sample xchart. Okay, so that's going to be our class for the sample. All right, so we're going to go ahead and click. And we're also going to do a public static void main. We're going to have to type it in there for us. Okay, so we're in this sample xchart.java. So notice it opened up. We got our package as sample, our public class is sample xchart. Notice the class name and the file name are identical. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get this sample code that we have here. So notice that the first thing we see here is the package name. So that package name is going to be different for us. Remember, the package is just whatever package the code is in or the class is in. So we're going to go ahead and copy the import section here. Okay, and that's going to tell us whether everything is installed correctly inside of our project. Okay, so we have our imports here, and this is great because notice that we get this warning message saying that it's never used, but we don't get, if there are real problems, we'd get something that looked like this, that there would be an error where it could not be resolved. So by importing these into the build path, by putting in this lib folder, importing them into the build path, or just putting them in the build path, we've solved our problems there. So okay, so our imports are working, even though we have our error message. And now we're going to go back. Oops, this is not it. Okay, so now we're going to go back to our sample code here. So notice that we have our public class, so we already have a class. We already have a static void main, but notice we don't have this throws exception addition here. That's fine. So then we're going to go ahead. Whoops. I have another error here. And I put my throws exception in the wrong place. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to put the rest of the code in. And so basically it's just this small area right here. Enter. Oops. Okay. So we pasted in our code, and let's see what we have here. So we define a double. And this is an array. We'll cover arrays in just a little bit. Okay, in fact, we're going to cover arrays as part of this charting, obviously, because we need an array. Okay, so we have two arrays of doubles. The first array is called X data. The second array is called Y data. Okay, we define them. We define them here, and then we initialize them here. Okay, so basically we have this list of values that we create a double from, and we feed that, we save that as X data and Y data. And then we go ahead, we have a chart of type, we create a new chart called chart, okay, and that equals quick chart dot get chart, and then we have the name is sample chart, and then these are the axes. So we label the x-axis X, the y-axis Y, and then we have a legend about the data here. Okay, and then we go ahead and we put in our X data and Y data, and remember those are just our arrays of doubles, right? And so basically an array is just a list of values, right? And then finally we do new swing wrapper of chart and display chart. So let's go ahead and see if that runs. Okay, so we run it and we get this kind of pop-up window with our chart in here. We got our Y and our X-axis. We have our legend. So we're going to call that a success. So we have our chart. Okay. All right. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and create our own chart here. So we're going to go into Hello World. We're going to our Hello package, right? We're going to go right-click and do New Class, and we're going to call this. We can't call it chart because that chart is used by that Xchart software. Okay, so we're going to call this an area chart. Go ahead and click finish. Actually, you know what? We're going to call this array area chart. Okay, we're going to click finish. All right. Okay, so we have our package. We have our array area chart public class. Okay, now we're going to go in and we're actually going to use their code on the site, and we're going to kind of copy and paste it. A lot of times it helps kind of you have a place to jump off at. So let's go ahead and we're going to go to chart and then customize chart. So basically we have this is the chart that we're going to make right here. So let's go ahead and paste this code in. So notice that we do have quite a few difficulties here. So some of these difficulties, obviously we're going to need we need our imports, which they didn't add this time. Okay. We also need our public static void main. And to be honest with you, I'm still getting used to some of the syntax here, so let's see how I did. Okay, we still have our sample here. Public static void main, strings as arguments. Okay, so there we have it. And reference library here. So notice that we have a chart builder class over here in this X chart. So that's something I didn't import yet. So we have to go ahead and import the chart builder there. Okay, and we also don't have this chart type. So we need to go ahead and click. Notice how when I highlight this, see how it tells me I need to import this? This is a lot easier than going to look for it. See when I highlight, notice how it's giving me an error, right? I see the error, it cannot be resolved. I suspect that it's because of these imports. I highlight over it, it says, hey, oh, there's an import that you can add. So notice that it adds it right there. Okay, I also have the same thing for legend position. Oh, look at that, it's in Style Manager. Okay, so interestingly enough, I'm just going to go ahead and add the entire Style Manager area there, and hopefully that will solve the problem. It did not, so let's just leave it in. Okay, so we have kind of our imports done. We have no errors as of yet. I do notice that our chart, we're not showing it yet, so I want to go back into our sample X chart and go ahead and hit paste. Okay, and let's see how we do. So let's go ahead and click run, and look at that. So we got our sample there, okay, but we're trying to make our own chart this time. So while we have this is kind of the boilerplate, the options that have been put in the chart, but I don't have my own data in the chart yet, right? So what we're going to do here is let's take a look at the code that we have so far. So we have our imports at the top, right? So we're getting all our code that we need to use. We have our public static void main with the string array as arguments. It throws an exception. So we have a chart, and then we're creating a new chart of type chart, and we do new chart builder dot chart type, and then in parentheses chart type dot area. Okay, so we're saying it's an area chart there. Okay, our width is 800, height is 600, title is area chart 01. X-axis title is X, Y-axis title is Y, and then build. Okay, so basically we're creating a chart here, and then we're adding series to it. Okay, now we're only going to have one series. All right. So let's take a look at where we add these series. So series, the title of the series is A here. The title of the series is B there. We define our. So when we took a look at that chart, let's run it again. Okay, so we take a look at this chart. Notice that the x-axis is 0 to 9. Okay, so here we see that it's 0 to 9. So that's going to be our x-axis, right? Then our y-axis is going to be up the left side, right? So that's going to be from -3 to 5. So let's run it and see what that looked like. So it is from -3, and then the highest is 9. Sorry, the highest value is 9 there. Okay, so now we're going to go get some data to actually put into this chart. So we got in Google, I just put in average age height CSV. Okay, so I do actually want to go get a CSV file. Okay, so I'm going to go down here. I see an official source, right? The cdc.gov is a great source for data. I'm going to click on that, and I just looked through this earlier. So I see that it's stature for age charts 2 to 20 years. Okay, that should be some interesting data. So I'm going to go ahead and click on it. It downloads. I'm going to go ahead and save the file because I want to use it later. So I click on stage STATAGE. Okay, so that's stature and age. Okay, so we get our CSV. All right. So now, if we look at this data, we can kind of tell that the X value, the X-axis, is going to be our months, right? So we're going to get the first 100 months. Okay. And kind of the easiest way to do this for us is going to be to, it's going to take a little bit of doing. So for this first one, let's just go ahead and get the first few data points here. So it's going every half a month here, right? Or I'm sorry, it goes 24, and then 24.5, and then 25.5. So it starts at 24, but then it really goes every year, right? So let's do the first 10 years here, from 24.5 to 34.5. Actually, 35.5. So we're going to go ahead and take the first 10 pieces of data here. So we have our age, and it's going to take a little bit of doing here. So we're going to go ahead and just kind of give ourselves some space down below here by hitting enter. We're going to paste in, right? So what we're going to do is we're just going to make a comma delimited list here. Okay, so we just keep adding a comma, 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 right? Okay, comma, 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 comma. And there are easier ways to do this, obviously, but we're kind of doing everything by hand here to start out with. Okay, so we get our series there, or we get our set of data. We Control X to cut, we Control V to paste, and so that becomes our X axis. Okay, so we have our X axis data here, right? Okay, so we have a bunch of numbers that represent ages, right? Ages in months. On the x-axis of our A series and B series, right? Okay, and then we're going to go back to our spreadsheet, and we're going to, our CSV file, right? It's a spreadsheet right now. A spreadsheet and a CSV file are essentially the same thing. Okay, so our two series are going to be the really low percentile. So this is the 3rd percentile and below. This is the 97th percentile and above. Okay, so we're going to get that data for the 3rd percentile. Remember, we have to be really exact on which things. Okay, so if we're creating these data series, they have to have exactly the same number of elements, right? So we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 elements. So we're going to go copy. Okay, so we're going from 24 to 35 months, right? Okay, so we go back in, we're going to do the same exact process. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and kind of get this data in order here. Remember, we need a comma delimited list. Okay, now in my mind, I'm already thinking that there are going to be problems here because there's the numbers are are so long, they have so many decimal places, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Okay, so that's A, right? Okay, so that is our A series, and that series is P3, let's call it. And then B, we're going to have P97. Okay, so we go back to our spreadsheet. We're going to copy some data out of there. Okay, and notice what a tiny percentage of the actual data we're looking at, right? So, okay, so we got our data here for, oops, and we wanted the P97, right? Okay, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 also. So we copy, we're going to paste, and we're going to do exactly the same thing. Okay, so we're just making our commented limited list. Okay, so we have our list. We're going to cut, and now we're going to paste into our second series. Okay, so in theory, we should now be able to run our graph. So we're going to go ahead and save it. We do have a couple of warnings here, but we can take these out later. Okay, so we go ahead and run it. So we, it did a good job. So we go ahead, we see that P97, right, and P3 are here, and you notice that that basically it creates this darker area on the bottom for the P3, okay, because the P3 is behind it. Now, if we wanted to, we could put the P3 in front, right? So because it's smaller, you notice that it was behind. So we did X, and okay. So it looks like this is being added one on top of the other. So I just went ahead and moved the P3 below the P97, so that's added later. Let's run it again. That's interesting. So it looks like now it looks a little bit better because of the P97 and P3 is then on top, right? So you can kind of see it in front.
Out here.
Okay, so we have created our chart now, and you know, it's pretty straightforward, right? We're just adding in a series onto the chart, and we got our data out of our CSV. So go ahead and create the chart, and good luck.